All right, we are live. So,
Oh,
first of all, welcome, guys,
Morning, morning.
Thank
morning.
you.
and
Hello, everyone.
and
Hello,
everybody
morning.
whoever is seeing Dak virus upside down, remember that he is actually driving, not testing those Teslas yet. Um, yeah, look at that. Look at that. Yeah, that's what is going on. So, while all of us we are sitting comfortably, and we will be discussing very important topic. And the idea came when few days back, Bali was celebrating a festival called Nepi. Nepi is a festival of silence. Literally everything is off in Bali, including the airport. No one goes out, nothing. That's the silent day for Mother Earth. So prior to Nepi, a couple of days before, we were testing our wallet. We were frustrated with the wallet's availability, and not that I'm against MetaMask and others, but it's not meant for common people yet. So we're thinking to implement something with the on-chain account abstraction, right? So to test it, what we did is we were saying, let's create a group of women farmers. They were never been in financially enabled, like they always depended on the husband's account and so on and so forth. You guys hear me, right?
Yes,
Okay.
your image
Yeah,
is
you're good.
frozen for me.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
we thought like we would be just dropping some tokens and test. So airdrop tokens to everybody, right? And this is for the first time. They were actually included in the financial ecosystem and they were doing transactions within themselves, right? So, hello, Lucy, welcome.
Hi, I'm so
So,
sorry. When talking about, I'm so sorry. I had some network issues. I'm good here. I'm so sorry.
uh,
Hi
d-
everyone.
Hello. Hey,
don't
Lucy.
worry, I'm still having some network issues somewhere. So, but that's what we are here to fix, right? And I'm not even in an emerging economy, at least. Now, when all the economy is crashing, then we all are in parallel world. So, that's where we thought, like, you know, we never thought that we would be enabling that many women farmers in a day, right? 268 of them onboarded in a day, part of the financial rail, right? So the idea came that there are so many projects like you guys are working, and how much collective impact we can generate in these so-called global south if we work together. So that's the topic of discussion today. But before moving forward, I just want to take a couple of introduction round so that our users know you, and then we proceed with the meat of the discussion. Ladies first, either Ting or Lizzie.
Okay. Tim, do you want to go?
You can go. You can start.
Oh, all right. Hello everyone. My name is Lucy. A deep in enthusiast. I'm based in Nigeria, Africa, and ambassador for PIC. So I learned through the nets, pretty much preaching the gospel of DePIN as it is. And I'm also a content creator and a part-time trader that would so yes, that's pretty much about me.
And by the way, she prepares amazing content, and I've been busy, Lucy, for
Thank
last
you.
couple of days, and we will do more. Yeah. Yes, Ting, please.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. It's great to come back to your show again. My name is Ting. I'm the head of ecosystem here in Europe for SkyX. So my role is to oversee the investors' relations, manage the strategic partnerships, and also lead and planning the execution of go-to-market strategies here in Europe. So if you're based here and looking for working with us, please get in touch with me. So yeah, that's a brief intro of myself.
Awesome. How's the weather, guys? Alex and Andrea?
The weather is a bit cloudy. I guess Thing can also show you guys that as well. Um, yeah, thanks for inviting us, Yog, to the live stream. We really looked forward
kind of meeting you guys and introing our projects, but also the topic you mentioned, growing deep in the global south. I think that's also one of our major focuses at WeatherXM. To give a bit of an intro about us, I'm Andrea. I'm the marketing lead at WeatherXM, joined by Alex, our business lead. As you guys know, WeatherXM is a community-powered weather network. So essentially, we reward weather station owners around the world for contributing weather data. So we're trying to decentralize weather data, and we're also in the business of providing the accurate weather data and services to businesses that are affected by weather in general. So that's a little bit about us. Alex, if you wanted to add something more.
I think you did a great job, Alex, business lead, as Andrea said. Excited to be here and chat about some of my favorite topics like agriculture, weather, and DePIN.
Awesome and great having you guys. Merlin,
Yeah, sure. Hello, my name is Merlin Ostermann. I'm the head of strategy at Agri Network and kind of a seasoned DePIN enthusiast, if you want to call that. I just conducted an inventory lately because I always treat general numbers, but currently I am sitting at participation in 93 projects, 176 devices in my house, and 2,382 across Europe. I have currently, from the representing people here, I have, for example, 3 SkyX nodes from the first generation, and I have also 18 of the WeatherXM weather nodes because they have been a little bit longer present and also distributed across Europe. And I participate in basically everything that has dedicated hardware first. And today I'm very thrilled to talk about this transformative potential of DePIN technology in Africa and Southeast Asia regions. And I think it's a very important topic because there is an emerging market in Africa already for some time and in Southeast Asia. And I think that DePIN brings a good decentralized approach to work with the people instead of exploiting them, how many growing traditional industries would do. And I think it's a very good topic to start things on the ground and find solutions which are attractive for everyone involved.
awesome. As always, precise, Merlin. I have nothing to add.
All good.
Dark virus, in case you're settling, please.
Oh, I don't have a little subtitle next to my name because I'm everywhere. I've been in DePIN before. It was DePIN years and years and years. I'm like Merlin. I love the hardware. I love the software. I just love everything about it. Pretty much day one and everything. And I'm an ambassador to pretty much everything. I just, I need some coffee. Sorry. And man, there's just so much potential and so much information out there that can literally change all of our lives, especially if we all come together and share all the data with everything. But enough of that. So what's going on? Does it rain down in Africa? Hey,
That we need to just check whether XM and SkyX for that.
yeah.
Uh, yes, so yeah, now that you actually gave some input to our discussion for the infrastructure, okay, how DePIN can potentially create this infrastructure. I have seen that in Indonesia with regard to telecom. A lot of these villages that has a population of uh, 5 to 6,000, which is considered very small according to Indonesian demographics, right? I think there are 260 million or 460 million population. I got to look at that. So in that also in 2025, we still have dead zones where absolutely zero telecom access is there, right? So taking those cues, how do you think infrastructure can be improved by DePIN projects? and it's just an open room. So anyone, please raise your hand and just go ahead.
Maybe I can jump in to take
Yep,
this question
yeah, please
first.
go ahead.
I think like DePIN is going to basically change how infrastructures will getting built in these regions. Like instead of like think waiting for big corporations or governments to install these expensive like weather stations, we'll see like individuals, farmers in let's say Kenya or small businesses in Indonesia can set up their own weather station, and then they can even get paid for contributing this data they collect. So yeah, I think that's basically the main direction that we're seeing. We'll see like even for local like agricultural cooperatives can use a portable weather station to track like rainfall patterns, and this hyperlocal data will help them to decide when to plant crops and reduce waste and boosting their yields. And so for us, like for example, in Southeast Asia, like let's say the Philippines, and if they use the Sky cam devices, they can use it for fishing communities to get real time like storm alerts and literally could save lives. So this is what I see how deeping can influence these regions.
Awesome. Yeah, please go ahead. And
Mhm. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of add on what Ting was saying. So, why do we have DePIN in the first place? Traditional infrastructure networks are usually, especially in the cases of telecommunication, energy sector, water, transport, logistics, are generally um, natural monopolies, meaning it's cheaper for these traditional monopolies to be the only service provider or goods provider in a country, region, or whatever, rather than it is to introduce competition. So, what we do in the deep in space, all of these projects that are trying to build out the weather infrastructure is actually we're trying to take away the power from monopolies and give it to the people. So, um, this is especially a cool use case for the global south, where most of the per se weather infrastructure is actually government owned and everything goes through the government. So by building weather infrastructure and by actually giving power to the people and deploying these devices, we're actually allowing uh, let's say local communities, such as if we take for example Africa, so or I mean countries in Africa like Kenya, South Africa, or for that case any other, we are actually deploying weather stations and allowing local farms, local schools to benefit from accurate weather forecasts. We now know that usually the weather infrastructure is built out in mostly in developed countries. So I would say the US, Europe, good parts of Asia, but the regions that are currently in need of more weather infra are, as you mentioned, Africa, I would say parts of Southeast Asia, Latin America, of course, and by allowing local farms and schools to deploy weather stations, not only they're benefiting from earning the rewards, but also they're having a real positive impact on their lives. So they're able to monitor the real-time weather data as well as get more accurate forecasts, something that they might not have been able to do before. So that's kind of the case we at WeatherXM are trying to make for the global south, which is also part of the world we are focusing right now on.
beautiful. It's a very clear case what you have highlighted, that sometimes it is also not in best interest for certain centralized companies, if not government, in many of the DePIN, not necessarily weather only, to serve that community because it is too small, right? And so while you cannot be everywhere in emerging economy, the governments had to really pick and choose their priority areas because of the limited resources, right? So
Mhm.
I sometimes feel that with the DePIN, innovators are going to disrupt that. They're saying, we found a pocket where we actually can, put this deep in infrastructure there. So, and we are not too worried about limited resources because people are contributing to create that infrastructure. Merlin, do you think that is one of the big reason why Deepin is actually catching the imagination of people in emerging economies?
Yes, but I feel this is a big potential part because naturally, DePIN is a lot about expanding infrastructure, and the real use case comes from numbers. Also, to some degree, the numbers are data, more weather data, bigger impact. It's like a self-sustainment of a project, especially for weather projects or environmental database projects. But also, I think that what sometimes is a little bit still of a problem is that there are very unique challenges to these places, which can actually be mostly also converted into benefits, but it needs an innovative individual approach from the project to kind of make something special for those areas. What I mean is, like, if you you cannot really even lump in Africa with South Asia in that degree, because in Africa, I would say the most biggest problem is many places are remote and not connected to a grid. Safety is a concern for expensive hardware. The more wider you go in the outskirts, you have to really think about who would own a $500 or $1,000 device if it could be stolen. Such things. Where like in Southeast Asia, it's totally different because like safety is not a problem. Like stuff doesn't tend to get stolen there. But on the other side, they have regulations which you don't have in Africa. Africa is pretty regulation free. In Southeast Asia, you have like a lot of regulations for wireless protocols. It's really weird. Like there are some devices which you can place within Europe even. Don't have a problem, and you need in Taiwan you need a radio license or stuff like that. It's very complex. Go.
In Indonesia, iPhone is banned.
Yeah. I mean, they are very precise, and on the other side, like Africa, if you really want to reach the scale, you have to do education of people. Not meaning that they just don't know this technologic topic. You have to do a bigger introduction of educational material to them to tell them what they need, how to connect, and everything. While for Southeast Asia, they have this all. They are further than us with the digital nativeness. Like all these kind of things, they are very different. So you have to address this on one side. But what I mean really with issues that can be put into benefits is more like, the biggest reason for DePIN everywhere is traditional infrastructure is expensive to build. You do it via DePIN to do it cheaper and more effective. Now, if we look at that for those markets, we have to kind of also think about something else. Like revenue split and hosting on devices is a big issue, for example, in Europe, because if you want to convince someone to position a weather kind of data miner, air quality, whatever it is that is connected to data, go towards them and present them to a revenue share, they will hard negotiate on it. Like it's like they will easily say like, I don't place this on my place when I don't get at least half the stuff, while the owner takes all the risk of the device, hardware, and setup. So it's always a little bit complex. Like in those markets like Africa, you can probably satisfy them with a lower incentive share as a host, but equally bring them much more value because, like, I mean, $10 of revenue in Africa for a farmer are 10 times more than for a European guy. So I think there needs to be good programs in place to kind of identify places where it's within reason to place hardware safe, and to make a co-model of like your users can invest into weather miners in Africa, for example, on farms, and get the revenue share. Kind of, because it's really hard for someone in Europe to facilitate this as a user. And the essence, the beauty of it would be, though, if users support such things. It would be the best storytelling ever if you could say that 200 users on your network financed and shared the rewards with 600 farmers in Africa and all that kind of stuff. So you need to build something towards that route. And if you address those things in a good way, you need to take this opportunity, because there is one opportunity with all those things like Africa and Southeast Asia that you don't have in US and EU. And this is, in EU and US, while your infrastructure is better, cheaper, and decentralized, you have to convince them versus the traditional models that are out there and competition and all those legislation stuff. While there it is, you're presenting something which has not really an alternative. They don't have a good weather network. They don't have something that easily gives farmers a benefit. So it is like kind of better do it soon, better do it this year, not sleep over it, because as soon as there are things in place and regulations in place, you will have a harder time. And I think it's like, if you seize the opportunity, it's a really big land, and both regions, there's an argument, small argument to be made about maybe some data is less valuable in those countries because the customers are willing to pay less. Like weather data for US and EU has probably buyers with more money, but the scale outweighs everything. And so I think it's a good chance to attract to those markets and to build there. You just have to do also a step and not just have the good narrative, but also do something to target those places.
That's awesome. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, Lucy, you have seen like on ground how things are changing in Africa on DePIN. What's your thought about?
Can you hear me?
Now, yes. A little bit
Okay,
delayed.
great. So I wanted to touch on a couple of things. With what Marina said, what Tinga said. Sorry, Andrea. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I messed your name up. And yeah, so I think the very first thing when Melanie talked about benefits, when it comes to Africa, I had a conversation. We're trying to plan this deepening event, and someone said something. He said if there was a continent that was in so much need of deepening, it would be Africa. That's because Africa as a continent can be considered as a developing continent, right? As Melanie said, if you were to take infrastructures in central, like in developed countries, are functional, right? Economy is great, maybe not globally, but they have infrastructure that kind of works, right? But in Africa, there is so much infrastructure because of their centralized in the hands of a few supposed greedy persons, right? We're talking from the government, from big individual. It can be quite difficult to get access. So we're talking from the place of connectivity, from the place of mobility, and a host of others. It's not news that majority of some areas in Africa still don't even have good connectivity, right? Now, what DePIN does, from the perspective of what Yogurt said, is the fact that sometimes the government can access all of this different infrastructure. So it brings in more people since Africans are blessed with human resources, right? There are a lot of people when it comes to population, right? So they are actually you can actually utilize individual resources to contribute to a network. And then there's also going to be a place of participation, right? DP says we are going to incentivize you. You can contribute to this network. It makes it more functional. So we're talking about connectivity. It's all good about okay, is there gonna be my network is working? Before I came in here, I had shitty network. But then YCOP is doing something. It's like you can connect to our network and it's gonna be better, right? And then when we talk about deep in transforming Africa, We come from the place of the fact that for infrastructure that are not on par with other developed countries, DPIN can be a factor to actually help people contribute. One, secondly, make sure that these infrastructure are well functioning. And of course, the beauty of DPIN is incentivization. It is incentivized. I mean, it's no news again. Africa has a very high level of poverty. These people can say, you know what, I'm going to contribute to the network. It might not exactly be big, but like Merlin said, $10 to a farmer in Africa is way bigger than $10 to a farmer in the United States of America, right? So incentive, even with the slightest thing, go to count. So when it
I
Oh,
I
sure,
think there
cut
is a,
off.
yeah, that is why we need deep in, guys, and that is what we are talking about, right? Look, this is live example, and infrastructure is an issue, and you guys who are watching from a privileged part of the world probably think, internet doesn't freeze, right? But it does. If you go to Indonesia, actually, when we were developing an app, somebody asked me, can you reduce the graphics in the app so that it is easier for us to download? So I was like, I never thought about that part, right? Now we are doing a scaled down version of it. Black and white, simple, send money, receive money, you know. So this is what the user wants, right? So there are a lot of issues which are pretty much tied down to the regional, I would say, like uh, style. Almost it has become attributes of that region, right? What Merlin was highlighting, that there are some issues exist in Africa, there is another issue exist in Southeast Asia, right? So in Southeast Asia, after working with so many farmers, we onboarded 160,000 farmers now. Hopefully, we'll onboard more. Let me get Lucy. Yeah, welcome back.
Yeah, there she is again.
talk about connectivity, and here we are. I'm really sorry about that. So these are the
No
Not your
worries.
problems
fault.
very existent in Africa, right? So what Deepin eventually does is to find a way to fix that using the human resources that Africa generally have, and then incentivize people to do so. So when I saw the topic, I thought it was beautiful. Because when you talk about Deepin and Africa, it's a needed, innovation coming to Africa, get them to participate, incentivize them, get them to make their infrastructure better. On the global scale of things, Africa as a continent, it's deep into infrastructure that goes a long way to actually facilitate growth. So yeah, that's pretty much my take.
Beautiful. I have also noticed and just wanted to extend what Merlin and Lucy, you both have said about the $10 thing in Africa. Um, a few years back, I don't know if you guys have noticed that there were a lot of Filipino gamers um, earning money
Axie
from Axie
Infinity.
Infinity, right? And my timeline was flooded at that time with how they are supporting their family. And it's mind blowing. Someone actually put, these are the things today I purchased thanks to Axie Infinity,
I
right?
mean, it has a slightly dark note on the exploitation part, but what I think is important to realize for Western or more US Europe focused projects is that there is an almost infinite value proposition with this new emerging market, because you also have to think about super random funny niche topics. Like if you have a European or US DePIN user and for some reason your token or your reward model changes by 2%, like they will be super vindictive, and they will like only a little bit is enough to tip the scale and to have them crying out on social media. While I know from personal experience with African farmers, like if you can bring something to their doorstep which creates reoccurring value, even if that declines over time, they will be loyal with you to infinity, because it's the value proposition is different. Those people are not keen to those models so much, and they are much more excited and engaging. Like even the learning capacity of people. Like, this is a fun argument to be made about bad perception of Nigerian people on the internet. I don't have it, because like I know that some people that dived into a DePIN ecosystem from Nigeria, they would know within 3 months 10 times more than any one of your European users for 2 years. Like, they really, as soon as they see it works, they are the users you want over everything. So it's very exciting, actually.
I have 148 QA points coming from Indonesian farmers about our super app. So they use it meticulously. The only thing I did is that said, if you give me a Q point, you are getting some airdrops. Simple. Let's keep deals simple deals, right? And so I'm receiving a lot of this is the mistake, that's the mistake. Recreation sometimes of those mistakes are a challenge, but nevertheless, people are engaged, and I agree with Merlin when he said they really participate. So I noticed that in Africa, I noticed that in Southeast Asia. Now, one of the crucial thing which probably Western developers are going to look at value of data that Merlin was slightly touching, but let me just take that question to either Alex or Andrew, anyone. Value of data. How do you see as from weather perspective? Let's look at that. Like, how do you see? Does it differ?
Alex, would you like to take this one? And then I can maybe give some intro about the actual deployments in Africa we're doing.
Yeah, but were you asking about the value of the data? Is that the
Yeah,
question?
Yeah, like
yeah.
compare
Like
the weather
what?
data compared
Yeah.
from Africa to the West. Like, if it has less value on the market, or if it's close to equal, I don't know.
Yeah, the way I view it, and I think WeatherXM as a whole, and as long as I've been in the weather industry, views it is like, I think someone mentioned before, it's for us, it's like a blue ocean in terms of Africa. There's not much weather infrastructure, and so it actually creates a unique advantage if you can get weather data and infrastructure when trying to monetize the network. In terms of what the value is, the way I look at value of a weather station specifically is how long the weather station's been there and how accurate the weather data is than where it's located, right? So those are all going to be contributing factors. So from an Africa standpoint, I think someone mentioned a lot of weather buyers are located in the US and Europe, but they still want world data. They want global data because when making global models, you need more data to feed these models so you have an accurate picture, because weather's all related, right? If it's super windy in Africa, that's going to affect something going on in Europe and so on and so forth. And a lot of weather traders actually look at these trends to say, all right, what cities are directly related? Can I make a strangle strategy, or can I hedge weather in San Francisco with a city that's really similar in weather, right? And so they'll actually use this for trading. They'll use this for large building of models. They'll use it for insurance, obviously. And so that's like the global purchasing of weather data, like as a meteorologist or climatologist. But then for the local communities, and I think Andrea wants to speak about this more, we had a deal where essentially if you can find a way to lower the cost of the hardware for these communities in Africa, they get the benefit of being able to use it for like a local farmer. They get to use it for their crops, or they can, get them insurance if we get them a weather station potentially. But the idea is that essentially you need to lower the cost, and then they get value from the data. Then you can sell that data to larger communities on the global scale or regional scale. And so that's a little bit the way I look at the value of the data.
And then
Awesome.
Then a quick follow-up just on this, because I think it's also important to have a populistic take on this. If you agree on this, because what I heard out of this is there is this perception from users that basically whether XM or SkyX, they are a catalyst. So to speak, in a very easy mindset, all those users are rewarded for their miners because you can monetize the weather data. In this conduct, if you really make it simple and put the individual country benefits out of the side, would you maybe say that although maybe not so many customers or customers are not so willing to pay maybe less for the data, it is totally countered by the fact that there is such a lack of infrastructure and competition that it kind of outweighs this. And in the end, from your perspective, it's at least as good on the value side for the network as any other place.
Ting,
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
add
I want to
something?
add something.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I want to add something real quick. Yeah, so on part of the value, and this is a very interesting question because I did an interview with Ycrypt. He's the founder of is it Ycrypt, and basically they help for connectivity. And when he was trying to create his products, he's an African person, Nigerian particularly. He wasn't certain about bringing it into the Nigerian market because essentially the product cost is about $500. The minimum, the spider device is about $250. And again, selling this data to customers in Africa might be cheaper compared to what you sell it outside. It was a dilemma sort of. And then, but when he decides to go forward, it is understanding that the amount of competition again in a functional economy, right, in a developed country, right, the device itself, of course, people are willing to pay $500 or 1,000 or 200 compared to Africa. But then, due to the low level of competition, like in Africa, there is literally almost no competition, right? And that it's a large population. So you're going to a large population where there is very low competition, and that even if 0.0.0.1% of people patronize you because of the large population, the demand is there. Now, we're not going to disagree on the fact that maybe due to poverty level, people are not likely to buy as much, but with such large competition, with such large population, low competition, there is a very good market. So, on a value perspective of a founder looking building a deepening project in terms of consumer, again, it's a needed infrastructure. Understanding the market, who are the proposed persons that are going to utilize this data, right? It's also about how much information you have in a market that is pretty much very open but haven't actually been utilized. So I cannot say Africa is that market. It hasn't been utilized. There, of course, there's demand for the product. Maybe not as much as not beneficial as developed countries, but then it's a free market. And I think that's from value of a perspective of a founder, there is still value, just like Melina said. If you look at it from both angles, there is still value in such a market. So yes, it's just my perspective on value, on perspective of the founder and consumer.
I think
Hmm.
one of the project which has actually done a very hybrid model and it seemed to be working because not everybody, as you said, can afford a $500 in this emerging economy. Dabba Network has done it very beautifully. It has actually asked others to host it, right?
Mhm.
So I think
That's amazing.
tokenization of that is going to come, and I know that whether XM is already doing that in many market, um, and that seemed to be norm. Like what we picked from these projects when we are doing it in for FarmCent, we are giving the sensor to the farmer. We're saying to plant on your field, we are going to pay. Sometimes they just look at, okay, so I'm looking at whether I have watered enough or not, right? And you're still going to pay me. How it is going to, so what are you doing with it, right? So most farmers don't understand that that data is important to us, right? And that data is going to your traceability system so the consumer know exactly how it was grown. That data is going to further improve the agriculture part, right, which we are giving to the research institute. If these are the micro weather patterns, what is going to happen with your crops? All those kind of things are being trained. So do you think like that there is a trend that to approach the emerging market is going to be that there is some sort of a tokenization is coming, so the more affluent society are going to buy on behalf of these markets,
hmm
right? Yeah, please.
Yes, Yog, I'd like to comment, but I see Dark Virus raising his hand. So, uh,
Oh, I had to. I'm sorry. No, just a couple of comments. You know me. I was trying to be polite, so I'm a DJ, and I'm very, very. What's the word? Artistic or autistic, maybe. I don't know. So, a couple things. Competition. So, Web3, aren't we supposed to get rid? I thought we're all supposed to work together in Web3. Number two, this weather data is like it's there's no value to it because it's priceless. I mean, I used it last night. I mean, it literally could have said. I mean, it literally saved me from tipping over. And you imagine just like the whole world is covered with this stuff. This stuff like microbursts and these fields these farmers can see like you said, you can see, how much water, what kind of crops I should plant, when's the best time, this stuff, this has like no value. You can't buy this stuff. I mean, of course people are making billions off of it. I'm not, but I just like I've been chasing tornadoes since I was a little kid. I mean, I love weather. I mean, like last night, I actually just sat there and, while I was almost tipping over, I was just like, this is so cool. This is so cool. But no, but the point is imagine stuff like this over where they don't have radars and stuff, you know, if like a tornado or something comes through, they have no idea. They have no idea. I mean, this is life-changing stuff, man. Woo! All right, you can have it
Yeah.
back. My bad. Thanks for letting me have my rant.
Before you proceed, quick shout out to Quick Pick guys. These guys are doing a lot in Africa, so I
Hmm.
recommend everybody to check. In the audience, please, big shout out to you guys. Thank you,
I'd
Quick
love
Pick.
to.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear actually quick pick, maybe write down what are they doing in Africa DePIN wise. We'd love to connect with fellow DePIN projects in Africa. So Yog, you mentioned Daba as a cool example of actually decoupling the ownership from the actual weather station owners and the weather stations. We at
Wi-Fi
WeatherXM.
network. Wi-Fi
Mhm.
Wi-Fi network sharing, Daba, is a little bit like
Yes.
Wi-Crypt.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
Alex and
you
I
guys
are,
have a partnership already. I'm hosting some notes,
yeah,
by the way. Whether X
yeah,
time met
good.
Dava.
Look, this is why wanted to jump in. We are partners with Daba. They're actually one of our deployment partners, but I mean, nevertheless, we really think they're an awesome project. Like our whole collaboration with them so far was, excuse me, was really cool. You guys said so decoupling ownership. So this is something we are actually doing. So we had this project maybe like 6 months ago. We called it the Targeted Rollouts One, where we raised funds for the community to fund the weather stations, and then we used the weather stations, and of course we doubled the amount of stations purchased. So we actually used the funds to send weather stations to the underserved areas of the world. So everything you guys kind of mentioned so far is something that we actually have been doing for the past 8 months, something like that. So the way this works is we fund the weather stations, we send them to our deployment partners, most of which are in Africa, Latin America, and we have DABA as kind of the main partner for India. So the way it works, the deployment partners are in charge of deploying and maintaining the stations. They're deploying these stations in at local farms. For example, Daba has their own localities where they deploy stations and they connect them to their hotspots. So we kind of have this um, concept of being, let's say, Daba and us creating some sort of deep in layer zero. So Daba is deploying stations for us, but they're also deploying their hotspots and connecting them to weather stations, or connecting weather stations to the hotspots. So,
That's a
so
beautiful collaboration, by the way. That's a
yeah,
beautiful
yeah, yeah.
collaboration.
Yeah, and I just have to mention, I mean, we also have a lot of partners in Africa, namely in Kenya and South Africa. These partners are BLCK IoT and DePIN SA. So they've been helping us deploy weather stations in South Africa and in Kenya. And am I allowed to screen share? I just want. I know it's kind of bragging, but I think our partners in
Go
Africa
ahead.
have
We
the
have a
bragging rights.
complete free things. Go ahead.
Okay,
And that
awesome,
gives time for Ting to prepare next. You're coming next to brag about.
awesome. Can you guys? Am I sharing my screen? What's going on?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yes, we see.
so a couple of months ago, like the map of South Africa was completely empty, and like thanks to
Ooh,
our partners from DePIN SA, these are the stations. I mean, these are the cells we have. So each cell has at least one weather station, up to 10. We also have partners in Kenya, the BLCK IoT. They've been really cool with deploying their weather stations around this lake. So we just recently had like town hall on Discord with them. So they've been great partners. Merlin, this is all to the reference to what you said about having partners and users in Africa. We really think it's a cool user base, and they're really awesome. And this is India. So this is almost everything here is attributable to Dabas deployments. So they're going around. Users are buying their hotspots, and they're going around and deploying the Wi-Fi hotspots for I guess areas of need where there's no Wi-Fi infrastructure. So since India is actually the biggest consumer market, so all these hotspots are being paired up with weather station, and each single dot here is at least one weather station paired up with a hotspot. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out
So,
to our partners there.
beautiful.
Andrea, thanks for doing that. But one thing I want to highlight is that we actually have to partner with a lot of other DePIN projects for connectivity. So I know, one of the main things on this podcast we want to talk about was agriculture, but our other partner is Helium. And the reason that Helium partnership is so important to us is because farmers typically want data where their crop is, and their crop generally has no connectivity.
Yeah,
And so when we compare IoT LoRaWAN with our weather station, that gives the
yeah.
person hyperlocal weather data, and it actually helps with these deployments. And the one thing I wanted to point out on our deployment partners is it's the idea of separating like a local community having to buy a $400 or $500 weather station and raising the funds, crowdsourcing it generally from the US, Europe, wherever. And then we then take the stations and put them in the communities of need. So it's essentially abstracting all the cost of a weather station.
Bit more managed as well, because that way you have
Exactly.
control over where you are putting this. Exactly what we are doing
Exactly.
in with our farmers. Although we have onboarded 160,000 of them, we're looking at where is the need to put these sensor infrastructure. And over a few months, we thought, right, it would be a waste of energy to just do agriculture sensor. So we are coupling with other projects. Like I'm talking to WeatherXM guys, um, bring the weather station to farmer so he has got multiple income stream, and that just helps him getting data. And as Alex said, like all are LoRaWAN compatible, so Helium comes in there. Then we are speaking to some of the Wi-Fi guys as well, like Weiru and Daba Network. So those guys come in, so it becomes a village full of farmers with a lot of tech going on, and they're still making money and they're contributing data, right? We call that concept farm center agri-tech village, fab. And the government is super happy. We are in the right side of law, so which is good. And yeah, so Ting, what is your strategy in deploying in emerging market?
Well, we are doing similar initiatives that we're also partnership with other deployment projects and companies to help us to deploy those stations in emerging markets like Africa, Southeast Asia. We are selecting also smart cities to work with the local governments to implementing our coming up professional weather station that will collect a much powerful weather data when we launch our Pro station next month with our demo going out, and then eventually we'll have our professional data coming to the market for our users to also purchase. So we're excited about that. Just add my thoughts on, what kind of data values are there for these kind of regions. And so in my point of view, I think we can look at like 3 different angles. And first, we have talked about in this panel, we have talked so much about how we can monetizing those data for emerging markets and local users to democratizing those data to earn money or earn tokens. But then, we can also look at on the business side that I think Alex touched a little bit on how insurance companies could leveraging this data for whether they should take these clients under these circumstances and how much should they quote for their insurance price, right? So there's a lot of business cases that we can see on the B2B side leveraging this data. But let's not forget about how these decentralized data could eventually collecting and DePIN projects working with each other and using this data that is spreading globally and creating AI models for predictions. And this is what we have as SkyX, that we would like to also integrating AI to clean and selected this data and bring the analytical view and prediction to the AI side for the weather prediction side as well. So I see in these 3 angles that how important these weather data could contribute. So yeah, we're excited for our professional station, because this will allow us to collect a much more powerful data for the AI usage.
I'll just extend what Ting was saying very quickly before I jump into Merlin. A lot of time we are not giving that much importance to weather data, especially micro weather data. And after AI, the scene is changing, because imagine before, if a crop is, got some, diseases or something, this farmer would run to the, local agriculturist and take his opinion and treat, right? But if you keep collecting the micro weather pattern and then see what is happening, you can create prediction models to actually prevent and let the farmer know that, hey, you are following this pattern that could destroy your crop. So you need to go well before and take some advices from the agriculturist. So yeah, Marlin, please.
Yeah, I wanted to also say something because, like, I didn't take the chance to say something about Agreen in this perspective, and I have to say it because it's an interesting venue for some people here to think about longer term. Like in Agreen, we are currently also doing different things related to Southeast Asia specifically and Africa. And many of them are still more in a secret stage because it's a very complex topic. But one thing we're aiming to as a proof of concept is a very, very simplistic model aimed at a high social impact, because we think like one of the big things is in Africa, you have many remote places not connected to the grid. We do something with solar monitoring. There is a nice, interesting overlap. So our first very simplistic approach is that with solar panels and us generating revenue on the data, you have a very exact spread and cut where you can make it very simple. A Westerner, a micro investor, purchases the solar setup with the micro inverter, and he gets all the mining rewards, while the family in Africa that lives remote gets all the electricity for free. Very, very simple, basic concept. But upon this, of course, the first thing we need is to transmit that data. We will most likely do it with Ugo, like from YCrypt, which Lucy mentioned, because Ugo has the important factor is here not just viability and the experience on ground in Africa, but also that their Spider device has the possibility to include a SIM card, to provide it via the Wi-Fi via SIM card at the location, and to be very cheap and affordable. So this will be kind of the one-step solution. Solar panels, inverter, our monitor, and such a device like the YCrypt device to transmit the data. But with this very simple example where the family at present will get the electricity and the investor will get the mining rewards, it gives the foundation for every other DePIN project to hop on the back. And this will be a proof of concept. And it would be super cool if we, like, not yet speaking about scale, but more really about a proof of concept and storytelling for remote families, if we could do some partnerships with other projects that then either the project offers it or financed by a user to bring them more value on the location. It would be so crazy. Imagine just this, some remote family with 2 kids in Africa that doesn't have access to infrastructure. Suddenly, they are elevated into a modern age where they probably get revenue and electricity enough to sustain a neighbor. And maybe from the other, if some other weather miner is latched onto that, it creates revenue to expand the solar over time, something like this. This is what I would love to do in this year.
I think the best part, what Merlin you have highlighted, is actually creating the base for deep in projects. That's one from the ecosystem perspective. And second is, adding value to the lives of those people that were deprived of these solutions before. And that's very important to us. And that's what actually forces us waking up early morning and handling the situation in Indonesia. Awesome. There are some questions, which is Sanjay Sarthi, you have asked like how the AI will help in the supply chain management. Oh man, AI can do anything. Supply chain is broken. So let's just know that. So whether it is route optimization, supply optimization, space optimization, oh man, this is just a crazy thing. And one of the things which we are working in FarmSend is actually creating a traceability solution that we call DEPS, the decentralized product passport, and each changing of hands need to be recorded on chain so that when you are putting something in your body, you should know about it. That should be the fundamental right. Quick pick, you guys have asked that farmers, um, what was your question? Oh, yeah. So we, at the moment, we are handling Indonesia to Middle East, but we will be very soon be present in other part. We are testing South Africa. Netherlands is on cards from European side. We have got some amazing suppliers there, and our suppliers are our farmers actually. We handle fulfillment for the time being, but this will be actually given. We don't want to do everything ourselves. Eventually, we will onboard partners. When we come to Africa, we'll look at you guys. Awesome.
I wanted to add one thing, and maybe related to the AI question, and build off Ting and Merlin's comment. So one thing one term I loved from DeFi was DeFi Legos, and I viewed the same thing for DePIN in terms of the more devices you put. First, you need connectivity, then you put a Weather XM device or a SkyX device, and then you can build other sensors that like Silencio. I think Lucy, you mentioned you work with. So I think you do kind of have to cooperate and build unique solutions by working together for all these DePIN projects. But then additionally, we ran a study saying we need about 36 million weather stations globally if we wanted to get the actual temperature of the world. And so there's a lot of space, to deploy weather stations.
Yo,
So I think we can
what
only
percentage
do
have
that
you
together.
done? What percentage have you done so far?
We're at 8,500 right now. But to that end, like
Long to go.
even though 8,500 to a 36 million deployment I don't think we'll ever get to 36 million. Well, I shouldn't say that. 36 million is a large number.
Hey, Rome
But-
wasn't
Never
built in
say
a
never,
day
never say
now, was
never.
it?
But yeah, exactly. But I was going to say, to give context is like, so I think Andrea showed the map of South Africa before. We're now the largest mesonet in South Africa, like even bigger than the government, bigger than any company. So we actually are the biggest
Beautiful.
database for weather. So I'm saying you start small and small wins. So like I was in Thailand and I thought about bringing 3 devices because all it would take was 3 devices in I forget the name of the island in Thailand, but we would have been the biggest mesonet with just 3 devices, right? And so it's the small wins that you build on. But then to add on to the AI question, I think DePIN is in a great spot. Whether you're getting solar power, Arc Green, AI needs a lot of electricity, right? If you're collecting data like Ting at SkyX or WeatherXM, AI needs the data to build the models to do better forecasts or even do
Absolutely.
broadcast meteorology. And so I think DePIN is in a great spot in terms of AI and its impact on whether it's supply
And
chain or any other industry.
and also, I was speaking to one of our partner for agri insurance, right? And at the moment, they do not collect micro weather data at all. They're just giving insurance on face value. So what happens when there is a claim request comes? You have a long queue. You are lucky to get your return if it's not 3 months. You're really lucky in there. Imagine empowering them with this data that it can settle it, and we are too far from on-chain settlement. But if it happens, then yeah, right? Your data comes processed, and maybe Chainlink picks up, and smart contract triggers the fire. Money goes to the farmer. That's it. It's a happy world, right? So yeah, don't underestimate the power of data here, and especially on weather. Because I know that government doesn't have Indonesian government. I'm with most of the government officials meeting constantly. They don't have a lot of data like Alex was mentioning. Um, so if they're saying that they have more data in Africa than the government, I'm already seeing that in Indonesia the same way. Government doesn't have that much data, so a private player can actually have better data than government.
I got a question though. So like in the US, so over the years, I thought back when I was a kid, actually when they use, like mathematics to like figure out weather, I thought they were way better back then than they are now. Now in the US, they actually have models for models for models, and then they have a model that models the model, and then like it seems like it's actually took a step back almost. I mean, I don't
It
know where I was going
depends,
with this, but
though.
go
You
ahead.
you will be the first crazy guy to use and exploit AI agents like crazy. I know you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So the AI agent would be able, let's say, it had all this and it could actually it could take in all these models of everything and then make, just like the most accurate forecast. You remember like in Back to the Future 2, when Doc Brown's looking at his watch, he goes, 3, 2, 1. And then the sun comes out. And I'm like, yeah, where's that kind of weather? That's coming, guys. SkyX, WeatherXM, let's go.
SkyX,
I,
Weather XM. This is specific question for you. So
no,
please
no,
answer
no, no.
this.
Don't let them answer because it's much better when I answer for them because they don't have to
Okay,
defend their
go
product.
ahead. Go ahead,
Like,
Marlene.
let's
Go
be
ahead,
real.
Lynn.
The reality is I use both products and I use I use the SkyX for around 3.5 months now and the Weather XM, I don't know, almost 2 years or something. Like this is the beauty of the DePIN approach. Like we're not speaking about some governmental 120K super sensitive devices with high maintenance. The fact is, everyone that builds something and sells something to the government will also make it so you have to maintain it with high costs. Those devices are very, very sturdy. And the Weather XM, although it has moving parts on it for wind measurement and it has the drainage for the water pouring measurement, I don't know. I even ran one in Japan for 4 months before I had to take it over again. But it's not an issue. Those things are made. They are, of course, weather resistant because they have to measure the weather. The only argument you could make is about sub-Saharan or something, and you have to test it. In the bigger picture, those, like, none of them has failed anyhow. Like, and you would have to give some statistical benefit if one out of so many fails, but they didn't fail. They are super sturdy. They withstand everything: rain, weather, ice, snow, storm. You have to just mount it properly. And in the end, it is, the comparison here is that over time, even if such a device would break after 5 or 6 years, you cannot compare it to the investment you would do on traditional weather measurement installations. Things that governments own, they are so crazy expensive. Like, they buy sensor stations for 120K and have someone go there 2 times a month to, I don't know, polish the vents or something. Those devices are simplistic, and they make the data in quality, in numbers, where one government station might be more precise. It's not very representative. Having like 100 within a city is a whole different beast, and the data is then, with the collective, much more precise. It's decentralized. No one can manipulate it. And overall, like, I think I have never yet seen someone complain about like those devices failing. Like, and whether XM has a long track history, so it's all fine.
Thank you, Merlin. I mean, big words of praise. I guess I guess you also answered Sanjay's question there. I
Yeah, that
mean,
was meant for that. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Thank you for the praise. I mean, we really appreciate that, because we do have a team of hardware developers working hard to improve each version of the weather station coming out. And I mean, the warranty for the weather station is 2 years, but I mean, anything within that time frame, we would, I mean, replace for free all the parts. So that's how we make sure that our stations stay up, and if it happens due to some extreme weather that the station is damaged or something, we are there for the community to send the repairs or the spare parts or whatever needed.
Just to add one thought on that, I think I think DePIN is taking the model of like Bitcoin to make a comparison, and the philosophy behind Bitcoin is to take advantage of decentralization, and taking out the failure of centralized one entity. And if one ledger is not working, you have another, all the open ledgers that is validating the network. So, you know, it's the same thing with weather stations. Is one station gets a little bit error in that and it's not working properly, but you have other hundreds of thousands of other stations is working installed in, let's say, in one region, and is still providing accurate data at the same time. So there is a comparison there between DePINs and Bitcoin, and I guess it is what inspired all the DePIN protocols or projects to continue to build and providing values to data collection. So just a thought to add.
Oh, beautiful. Also, another thing what I also see is that because incentivization, Lucy was talking about it, is a crucial part of DePIN, and we couldn't have imagined that in a fiat economy, right? Especially in an emerging world, right? I know I was sending $10,000 to one of the Colombian coffee farmer, and the bank was literally asking me tons of questions as if I'm engaged in a criminal activity, right? And today, when I'm airdropping token to my farmers, I'm not answering to anyone, you know. So I think, yeah, it has got similarity to Bitcoin in that aspect for sure. Incentivization has made things a lot more simpler now after this, um, you know, um, so many DePIN projects are jumping into it. Yeah, cool. Looks like we are past time. I just want to take some closing thoughts from all of you, and keep before we move forward, keep working hard on emerging economies because that is going to add a lot of value later to your project and to them, to the people, and eventually to the world. Who wants to go?
I'll go first because I gotta go. Remember, we're still early in all this. You guys, all these weather projects should be like together, right? I know with competition, not competition. You know, remember all the hardware is still like new. All this stuff, first gen. You learn from your mistakes. You build new. People are like, oh, well, I gotta buy something. You learn from your mistakes. You build it better. That's all we're doing. We're all learning. We're all building out here. So be patient. Quit asking about tokens all the damn time and just sit back, buckle up, and let's go.
Let's
I'm done
grow.
now.
Hey, I'm tired of listening when moon questions, right? So at least, and now then they keep asking me when TGE. I have patience.
Hey
Yeah, but
man,
I'm
we've been
I
broke.
have
I need it more than anybody's, but I don't ask. It comes when it comes, right? It magic money will fly into my magic wallet someday, right? Magic money.
I have to say, like one thing, I will have closing words, not about the project Arc Green for this time, but I have to say something about Duck Virus because, like, I think we need to find some someone who is not maybe stupid enough, but risky, willing enough to finance a DePIN project oversight collaboration between Dark Virus and me, because you would see the biggest abomination of a DePIN project you have ever seen. We would basically just try to stack as many DePIN devices on top of each other as long as they all
I've
work.
seen that. I've seen that video.
Bro,
Funny part
bro,
would be it
I'm
would
not
even drive around. Like that's the ridiculous part. Yeah.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. I thought about this the other day, like a doma, like a bubble that had like every like weather and all it just in like a dome, and you just like plop it on top of a car, and it's like it gets the weather, but it's like self-generated. Yeah, it would be an abomination, but it'd be the best abomination ever.
In our
Sorry.
broadcast when Dark Virus was there, it's like Project X. Okay, Dark Virus show their device. So he pulls out. This is the device, and then so it's like he has loads of the DP in like full when he goes takes his camera outside his home. All I see is the deep in device. I say, show me that, show me that. Is that Weather XM or is that Sky X? Full of them.
We are
So
both
yeah,
a little bit crazy.
Yeah, my final thought after seeing these two guys, I think I see a similar pattern here as Bitcoin early adopters. I see the early adopters of DePIN collectors. So I think it's very exciting what's going on in the DePIN industry, specifically the weather, how there's so many use cases, business models that can come out from what we're building together. And so it's exciting. And if you are listening to this, you should be like those two gentlemen, and be early adopters and get your hands on some of the sensors and stations.
awesome.
awesome. For me, no final thoughts. I think you guys said it all. I couldn't said it better. So I'm just glad you guys invited us to hang out, speak a little bit about what we do, and we are here for the next time as well.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Lucy,
So
please.
I think it's just saying thank you for having us on this space. It was really nice discussing this. And yeah, I think Merlin did mention something about deepening as an aspect of social good. I mean, from the business part of it, maybe. But then African do have a market. I want to see more projects coming into Africa. I want to see, the utilization, its utility, right? From the aspect of storytelling, he said there's going to be deep in changing lives in terms of those people that could access connectivity, better an issue. That is a whole market in itself, social good. There's also going to be part of exploring this market, and most especially human resources. There's a lot of people, a lot of data yet to be utilized, right? Yet to be mined, that's where. And Africa has that place. So I want to see a lot more of, for deep founders, I don't think I'm a founder. I've not been one. But then, yes, I want to see more founders utilizing the market. And as that virus said, it's going to be sometimes the shitty markets that just keep building, right? And deep, like Tina said, it's early, but we're very early. So yes, I want to see where we get to that very high level where everybody's talking about deeping and then everybody's in on deeping. So yes, let's grow.
Let's grow. Who else want to go?
I'll say thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. Great hearing about all these projects and meeting you all.
I want to show you guys something before we go. That's our women farmers, on farms and t-shirt, and they all have the wallet right now, and they are
Wow.
doing transaction on their own. So happy days
Way
for
to
us.
go. Way to go. Nice.
Let's grow, guys. Thank you for
Excellent.
coming and speaking, and for those who are listening to us, we will keep putting all the handles. Follow them, stay in touch, participate, and see the opportunity where you can host their deep in hardware, or you can contribute, being like what Lucy creates a lot of content and awareness, and specializing in African market. A lot of whenever she creates any video, a lot of people are watching her in this. So
The
try
reason
to
I want to know
contribute,
about it to contribute. It's true.
right? So we will try to bring them in. Weather seems to be good. So thank you for joining. We will see you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.